Let's talk Tanya for the 9th of Shevat. Yesterday, we spoke about the fact that from God's perspective, everything is Him. But obviously, that's not our perspective. For some reason, there's this illusion of independent existence that we perceive, that we see when we look around the world. Where does this illusion come from? The answer, the way the Alter Rebbe explains it in today's Tanya, is that everything is a product of God's resonant, God's will. Now, in the previous days, we said that everything that exists is a product of God's speech, but that's not a contradiction, because speech is the actual medium through which everything comes into existence. But why does a person speak? You only speak when you have a desire to speak, you have a reason to speak, you want to speak. So also, God speaks, yes, but why does He speak? Because there's a ratzon. God has a will, a desire for creation. However, within God's desire, within God's ratzon, there are different levels of desire. And to illustrate this, let's give an example. So let's say you decide you want to build yourself a new house. So that's a desire. That's a ratzon. You want to have that. What do you want? What do you really want? You want to have a beautiful home where you're going to feel at home, where it's going to be homey. And you're imagining that beautiful house that you're going to have. And that is the reason why you're doing what you're doing. Now, in the process of building this house, you're also going to have to build a sewer system. Pipes. Are you going to say you really, really like making a sewer system? No. You really want a house. You don't really want a sewer system, but in order to have a house, you have to have a sewer system. Also, okay, so you do the sewer system. In Chassidus, that would be called achurayim deratzon. That would be called chitzonius haratzon, which is the external will. The internal will, the pnimius haratzon, is your desire for a house. The external will is therefore you need to put in piping for a sewer system, which again, you want to do that also, otherwise you wouldn't do it, but obviously it's not the same level of will. Now, what happens if after you built your house, so the inspector comes and tells you that you violated the code and the wall is 2 feet or is 2 inches beyond where it's supposed to be? You have to knock down that wall now and rebuild it 2 inches in. Okay, so you go ahead and you do that now. You knock down the wall and you're rebuilding it. Do you want to do that? That's even worse than the sewer system. You're doing it, and while you're doing it, you're upset and you're cursing out the inspector. But ultimately, you're doing it because you want to do it. But what do you really want? You really want your house. That's called, this third level, when you're doing something that you're absolutely despise doing, is called achurayim deratzon. The backside, the behind of your will. The reason why we use that word achurayim, the backside, the Alter Rebbe says is, imagine you have to, for some reason, you're forced to give something to someone who you despise. You don't give it to that person face to face. You take it and you throw it behind your shoulder and say, here, go ahead and take it. The same is true also in the creation of the worlds. But before we get to there, one more point, which is, in these 3 levels of will, where are you revealed? If someone is watching you, building your house or decorating your new living room, you are expressed in that. Why? Because that's what you really want. You get to see the person for who he or she is. But when the person is installing the sewer system, or even more so when the person is busy knocking down the wall of the house that they put up, can you look at that and say, I see the person for who they are? No, the person doesn't even want to be doing that. That's not the person. They're being forced to do that because of a result that they want. The result is what they want. But this itself is unpalatable to the person, and you can't say the person is revealed there. Actually, when you see the person knocking down the wall, you're getting a distorted view of the person and a distorted perception of the person. In the creation of the worlds, there's the same thing. God created the world because He had a deep desire for something. What was that deep desire? He wanted us, the Jewish people, learning Torah, doing mitzvahs. That's what He really, really wants. That's what He really wants. However, in order to facilitate that, He needed to create an entire world. Okay, I don't want to equate a world with a sewer system, but the point remains the same. The point wasn't the world. The point isn't the rainforests and the Amazon. The point isn't the Alps. The point isn't anything else. But all of those are a support system to allow for God's internal will. And then there is the achurayim deratzon, the backside of God's will, and that is the klipa. God created klipa, which He finds despicable and repulsive. Klipa is that part, that the element of creation that considers itself something independent of God. And because it is a product of chitzonius haratzon, because it's a product of the backside of God's will, God is distorted over there. And we don't see God for who he really is. Because this world is a product of klipa, therefore, we look around and we don't see the truth because this is chitzoni yisarasan. And instead, we look around and we see a world that looks like an independent existence, something which is other than Hashem himself. Tomorrow, all this information that we have, that we learned about today, and also the previous days, will all come together and we'll have a much deeper understanding of what avodah zarah, of what idolatry is all about.